Right.
Oh, yeah, I tried my hardest.
That. That's all I was thinking.
Okay, that can go down. That can record.
I just don't know where to go between this. So, my idea of that platform, say something to the helicopter. There's, there's like this much space in between. Yeah, that's your favorite.
Right.
Well, alrighty then.
Is there anybody watching?
Well,
Hi.
How's everyone doing?
good.
Great.
Good.
No.
How you doing? Good evening.
Did Anne Marie call or
It would have been to Denise. I haven't been in the office, so I don't know.
Dawn? I didn't get anything from Denise that they weren't coming.
I didn't either.
All right, well, we're gonna start in the interest of time, I think. So call the meeting to order. And, stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, a couple housekeeping items. When we last met, Mr. B was kind of resigning, not sure, and when he left, he said he wanted to stay. I don't think he realized at the time that his letter was in transit, received the next day on April 14th by the town supervisor, so his resignation is official. So I've given you a new roster without his name on it, so that you can keep talking to the committee. His resignation date is the date of our meeting. That was the date of his letter, but it was received on the 14th, so that brings you all up to date with that. If any of you do have any changes to the roster, please send them to Denise and know that we are the only ones privy to the roster. So that just stays among the committee members. Michelle Booth is back with us tonight to do the Zoom portion for us and to help us with the checklist that we went through. And Bonnie Toomey is back to do our minutes tonight. So thank you both of you for being here to do that with us. In terms of committee member and guest recognition, is anybody here from Zoom?
Nope.
No? Okay, not yet, so.
I'll let you know.
Okay. Hi, sorry, it's okay. The minutes of the meeting of April 13th, they were sent to you by email from Denise. So if there's any corrections or additions, we'll entertain those. Is there a motion for acceptance?
Say Okay, no worries.
Seconded by Tom. Any discussion, corrections, additions? Okay, then a motion for acceptance on those minutes. We have it, vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. So they will go from unapproved to approved, and then Michelle will post them on our website. So they will become an addition to the approved minutes from our first meeting that are already here. So the minutes and the meeting schedule, I think, are what's on the town website for the committee.
Correct.
Okay, so Yep. Okay, introduction, thank you again for all of being with us. We appreciate your input for us. All right, let's see, the record availability, again, the town website, committee communications, the only thing that I had sent out for you was a post-meeting memo from our last meeting, just trying to get things moving forward for you. So hopefully you all have that. Any questions on that? I'm not aware that there's anything else that's gone out as a blanket to everybody, you know, from Denise. You go back and forth among yourselves and that's okay, but for our official communications, I'm not aware of anything else. All right, the main portion of our meeting tonight is to continue on this checklist. And I would just say to you that there are some things that we will encounter that we may have to wait toward the end to fill in, like the infrastructure that's necessary, that kind of thing. And I learned in the parking lot before we came in and talked to Steve that the Mendon Fire District is doing something inside the firehouse. So if we could go to the portion of that that says integration options, and add a bullet there. And I'm gonna let Steve talk about what he wants to put on the sheet so that you will know what's going on there.
Sure. So Mendon Fire Department, Mendon Fire District have purchased a flag of valor. You've seen it's a corporation of all veterans. They make wooden flags, that kind of stuff. The distressed wooden flag, it's framed in a larger frame. I think it's like 5 foot by 3 foot. Underneath is each one of the guys' DA photos. Underneath that, and underneath each individual, they have a small plaque about each individual soldier, service, that kind of stuff. And then there's a bigger plaque for remembrance of the incident. And then Lieutenant John Grieco is a retired city firefighter. He makes a lot of metalwork stuff. He's taken our company patch and then also the Mendon Fire District patch. And he's going to make them into metalwork. It's about 2 foot by 1 foot, I believe, is their metalworking. And it's all going to be one big panel. Mendon Fire Hall, the large public meeting room. You're looking at the east side, in between the center windows and the second set of windows, is about a 8-10 foot section of wall. That whole piece will turn into the district's remembrance of the incident.
Were they firemen?
No.
Okay.
No, Mr. Koch worked for the state police, but he's a civilian. No, this is their the organization wanted to remember it internally over there. It's one of the things that we've talked about, and we hope we never go into this big ever again.
Most of them.
And so there's wanted to. It's going to be a big piece of Mendon Fire District for, unfortunately.
Steve, are you accepting donations for that?
I will have to defer anything to the president, which is Lance Marchese, or talk to any of the commissioners.
Okay.
Right now, the department's the one running that piece of the show. So either Lance Marchese or Mike Harmon.
Okay.
I don't want to speak out of turn.
Who was the other second person you said?
Mike Harmon, he's our vice president. He's the one who's really been spearheading the project.
Okay, thank you.
But Lance is the department president.
Okay. Thank you.
Nailed it.
Okay. Does anyone else have any information about other memorial presents or other tributes that are being planned that we would want to capture here? Okay, well, if you do, please, let us know and we'll get the list. Now, when we last finished up, can you scroll down, Michelle, and see where we are here? Okay. The memorial presents, all right. Can we make that bigger? Is it a matter of moving the projector up?
No, good, let me like,
How do we get the image?
we gotta move the table.
Yeah, I would assume moving the
Let's-
table.
Let's try that, so we can fill the screen and move the
Sure.
projector.
Well, unless you be able to project it.
Here, let's try this first.
Let's go to-
Oh, wait, go back, go back.
Yeah, I think that.
Because it was on the edge. Can you pick that up a little? Yes, we can. There. we doing, Cynthia?
That's
better, yeah.
There's probably a focus there. Is there a focus on that?
Probably, yeah, it's see the black buttons on top? Nope, all the way up near the bulb.
Front.
See those? It's the top one.
No.
Which one do you want here, please?
I guess so.
Is that, okay,
It's acceptable.
all right,
It would probably help if we,
yeah.
Here.
yeah, I think they're the ones back there. There we go, much better.
Maybe that, does that go out? That floodlight in the middle?
Shine right in your eyes.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
That's good.
Thank you.
That's right.
Okay. Does anybody have anything to add to what we did last time? We looked at education. We looked at potential sites, symbolism, inscriptions. Just want to make sure that we don't overlook something that somebody has had from the last time. Okay, then let's move on. Let me get to the cost there, that's the end.
You told me to go down.
Wow,
We're good.
we're good. You really filled out? I guess I didn't.
It seems like
realize-
there should be more though, you're right.
No, are we missing a page there? I've got 4 pages.
Yeah, the memorial presence, right, defines square memorial presence on there.
Yeah, I have 4.
But we haven't gone through all those. Yes, we've got.
Oh, okay.
I have 5, actually.
So
Okay.
that dollar sign is, it's, well, we'll just forget that for now, but anyway, that's out of order. Yeah, okay. So scroll down. All right, let's start here, because some of those other things in that memorial, no, that's not.
There should be a memorial presence.
All right, sorry,
I think so too.
Go
go
up.
back up.
Go back up.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Was it the infrastructure requirements, so that we decided we have to wait until we get more of a conceptual?
I
All
Yeah.
right,
Some of us may have to do some.
and the utility requirements probably in the same vein.
Mhm.
Ability for expansion, is that something that is important for you until?
I think that was. No, in my mind, this memorial should be separate. You could always put a memorial next to it.
I agree.
You could expand the park.
Yeah.
If we pick a park, we call it Memorial Park.
Right.
Here's that. Then we have a memorial here for this, heaven forbid we memorial for others.
Right.
I don't think on this monument, I don't think we want to add.
No.
I agree.
Yep, standalone. It's a standalone.
It's a standalone. However, is it important for you to suggest that possibly it could be done in phases? If there are.
Depends on what we decide, I mean, right?
So maybe here we put phasing as a possibility, or phasing if necessary.
So phasing of what? So if we
Well, the
decide.
next one says phasing required, so you could put.
No, I guess in my mind is, if it is it's a monument, then, you know, if we want to add lighting later on, if we want to add other things, that would be phasing. Or if we decide on a very large event, then maybe we couldn't do it at one time, and we would do accidentally build the information would come later, you know, the tables or something. That's what I see.
Okay, I think once we get a concept, we have a better idea of whether the phases will be required and what the phases might entail.
So maintenance requirements.
I think that's another one. Wait and see what's.
And who owns that?
Is that a DPW, is that the town of Mendon owns that maintenance requirement?
Town amendment,
I mean, that's the only thing I read in there, that's the town, DPW has to.
town amendment, where they contract or, you know,
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, I guess the town of Mendon board would be responsible for whatever they.
so town funds. And then if the town decides to take donations or something, that would be up to them, but right now, all we can do.
But that's a consideration, if you build it of wood, it's gotta be stained every 3 years, if you build it
Yeah.
of stone, it's gotta be pressure washed every 10 years. Right,
That would definitely be figured into, you know, what the final project was,
Right.
and we would, you know, figure out what the maintenance would be. So,
Would you consider the capital cost estimate to be a town decision?
I think we should probably have, well. Probably have that, what we do, I think we should give them some idea of what we're looking at.
Once we get to that point,
Right.
but the bottom line would be the town's consideration for the
That's-
capital
it would-
and maintenance.
It would have to be approved by the town.
right, we could propose a Black Hawk on a stand.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But it would be extremely inefficient, not feasible.
All right, well, let's leave those two, the next two then, alone for now. Is that okay?
But I guess I also want to say, as far as cost, it depends on what we do. I mean, there may be something that we say, no, that's worth the stretch. That's worth reallocating funding, but that's worth raising money.
That's what I was wondering.
Right.
The town says we can put up X, and we raise this.
Yeah, there isn't a number, and it's just, but, you know, speaking to the board member, and I think I can speak to him, well, depending what it is, we'll make a stretch. I think it's.
Yes, and I did speak with Supervisor Moffett yesterday. And he said, don't worry about the money right now.
Okay, so let's leave those two blank for now and see what happens as we come up with.
And just, if you were talking about raising funds, the town itself cannot raise funds. So it would have to be funneled maybe through, the Legion decided they would undertake that, that would be something that would be acceptable. But the town itself cannot raise funds.
Right.
Our- We're gonna have visitor comments for the end.
Okay.
Let's scroll down then, Michelle. Okay, there's 3 empty bullets there because is there anything else that you think we need to add as a guideline under memorial present? Something we need to consider that we haven't covered there yet? All right, well,
Could you go up a little bit?
Sure.
Just scroll up. So we're still kind of in the brainstorming, we're not narrowing, I mean, so some of the considerations, I think. The only considerations I would be is just low maintenance, durability. Last, that's just the right word. Those adjectives, but those have to be down below.
well,
But you can put it there or down
maybe
below.
under the annual operation cost?
No, I don't think so. I think just down, I think down below the next page.
And
Right.
the-
Well, what about infrastructure requirements, low maintenance?
Okay, you put it there.
Durability.
That's fine. Yep.
Oops. Low maintenance, and what was the other thing?
Durability.
Durability.
Anything else in this category? No? Okay, so let's go on to the next block, which would be the memorial site. So when we were first looking at this, location or address, this was something that was considered to be put on the chart. So do we leave it there?
That's not my favorite location, you know, I don't know, huge family considerations, the site of it, I'm not sure that would be, in my opinion, that's not where I would.
And that is private property.
We have to ask, right?
Yeah, and there's not really parking and.
Nope, there's all kinds of
Honestly, it's gonna be, it can be a traffic issue.
It's my understanding the owner does not want anything.
Right. And do you want to take away what's in parentheses there, the West Bloomfield Road to county roads? Or do you want to leave it there?
I would say, take it away.
Yeah.
Especially if the owner has, yeah.
That's kind of my,
Property.
that's kind of my question, are we brainstorming, we're putting everything out
Well, we're
there, then we're
brainstorming,
gonna go
but
back and.
if we have something that you don't want there, we
Yeah.
can just current and,
On top of it.
right. So, before we go on too much further, I want you to look back at the agenda. And the first item under memorial concept considerations is the family guidance. And now that we're in a new category, I would just ask Mrs. Cope if she has anything to update us on for the families.
Sure, I'm doing, as I said, the trials said that they trust what we're doing here. I'm waiting on Catherine Sort to get back to me. I talked to her a little bit about, what we discussed last meeting. I've spoken with my extended family, and, the proposed idea that you were talking about from a location standpoint, the new, spray park or slush park. Sounds like something that would be really, great for the kids, and that's really, everyone's biggest concern from my parents. So, and something that certainly at least I can say would represent Christian and what you would love and, want. So I love that location idea. Personally.
I think one of the things I had kind of written out prior to last meeting was a place that people are at and they can discover. I mean, it should be a place that people seek out as well.
Right.
I want to see more, but if it's, I'm just gonna say the spray park, just as an example. A family goes there and sees it, and reads about it, learns about it. I mean, I think that's great. I mean, that's like even almost like at the, I'm not suggesting an alternative, but like at the town hall, when there's parades in town, I think like, oh, what's this up? I think if it's a location that has a draw, another draw, not that this isn't an important draw, but I think that's an ideal location, at least in my mind.
And I see, my kids are in their thirties now, but when they were younger and they would go on the school and they took them to historic sites in the town, they would come home, even if it was going to, let's say, the cemetery, which they would go, when the teachers would take his class to clean up the cemetery. They would come home with so much information that I didn't know about. So, and then they wanted to take me. So I went to the cemetery, learned about, the things that they had learned that I didn't know anything about. So I think it's someplace that schools could, it's a site where kids could go and there's a lot for them to do. And then learn about, be educated about things in our town. So.
And then keep in mind too, that it's not just one concept. You can come up with some more.
I would say the town library is another place.
Yeah, that's what.
Either in the parking lot, there's a natural area, they don't know the location, the town library, knows people go.
Right.
The cemetery next door is a little more traditional, that is an option. It's a village property, I know, but.
Yeah, I suggested the old library site,
Yeah.
and as a child, the library meant everything to us, and it was such great family activity. We'd go on, we would walk up the sidewalk to this large red door and just be enthusiastic about what we find in the library. And it was just a great, quiet, little yard. I mean, when I was smaller, it was not bigger. Now it's small. It's a nice, it's still a nice place. There's plenty of public parking next to it. And there's a lot of foot traffic throughout the day, throughout the year, really. People walk by there at a leisurely pace and have plenty of time to reflect on the meaning of this monument that we're going to put there. So that was my thinking of why I chose the whole public library.
You're thinking in the yard.
In the front,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's not like in the building.
No, I was figuring we reconfigure this sidewalk to direct the public to the memorial, wooden, the stone memorial.
Yeah.
With the engraved. And then also the sidewalk, the new sidewalk is directed to the front of the building also,
I mean,
tie it together.
yeah, that kind of fits into kind of what, like I said, my mindset was.
Yeah, it's more reflective.
Yeah.
Than Spray Park, but that's what my thinking was.
When we talked about these ideas last time, I know they were captured someplace, and I don't recall where on the chart they are, but let's find them and then. Which would be. Right there, integration options, see Old Public Library, Monument and Honey Falls Cemetery, Disney Park.
Yep.
So maybe some of those we need to move down into this area or just put an asterisk with a cross reference, just so we don't lose anybody's idea, but maybe, as we go along here, we wanna shuffle where these things are. Maybe.
Going back to this site here, I suggested educational kiosk inside, that would be phase 2, of course. So we really don't want to keep that there. Right now.
Well, I would, I mean, we
Okay,
don't wanna
right,
lose anything,
right.
and when we go
I mean,
through it.
Our focus right now should be just phase 1.
Well, to brainstorm,
Okay.
to get everything out, and
Okay.
then you can decide or move it however you want.
Okay.
Let's go back to where we were. In our memorial site locations. Is there anything else? I know we have a whole list of town property, so I don't know that we need to list them one by one again. But.
Should we put the Semel Park up there? I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's just list it as a,
Summer Road.
Semel, what's it called?
There's a park, so Summer Road Park would be.
I drove by it today, just the town amendment right now, so that's fine.
Yeah, it's right, that's the highway.
There's 3 parcels there, and I think we were just looking at it as some of those parts.
Yeah.
The soccer fields have a name. Right.
Right.
Right, so that's already, what I'm saying, that has a name to it, and there's DPW in the middle, and the park on the left just says town amendment. Okay.
Tennis court?
Yes.
The baseball field is about lost, so that's the dedicated area for the baseball field.
But if they move it, they can move it.
Yeah.
But
And the only reason they said they would move it is because the engineer said it was the best place.
Yeah.
Places. Now that I think that, can I go back for just a minute? Sure. The only thing I did notice in the minutes, it said the town engineer, it was not the town engineer, it was the vortex engineer for the spray park. In my comments.
so
Sorry.
with everybody's approval, we'll have Bonnie change that and just keep the minutes approved, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
One other thing that I didn't mention when I was speaking is that, last week I said I would put, before I heard about your idea was, and this is what I had spoken to Catherine about, is that we live in, Cityville Estates on Gravel Hill, and I know that was on the list of potential locations, and so, and I know you mentioned that's a place that Christian absolutely loved, and, we spend a lot of time as a family on those trails. And, and I like people have gone, because they're awesome trails. I know that the only hesitation I see is, I don't know if it would draw a ton of people in the neighborhood, that people parking on, but I don't know. What, it's hard to anticipate how many people are gonna come visit, just to come visit it, or, what you were saying, kind of like if it's, they just happen to be there and learn about it in person, they have to seek this out.
I'm not familiar with the way it is now. Are they maintained? Do the neighbors maintain it?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that it's owned by the Mountain Foundation.
Okay,
One of our neighbors, is a trade-off, like he maintains it.
okay.
He knows the trails.
Got it.
And it's my understanding there, it will never be built.
I
So
think
that's,
it came from kind of right.
right, so I just like to keep that into consideration.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely.
That's at the end of,
So it's Gravel Hill Lane,
Gravel
it's a
Lane.
neighborhood off Plains.
Did you put that up there, Michelle?
I did.
Yeah, it's up, we talked about
Okay.
that.
but that's not integration location. Oh, I guess it is.
It's next to the family guidance.
Yeah, I just don't know if it should.
Can
be
you put it down
location.
below? Yeah, it needs to be down
Yeah,
below.
put it down below.
And that's just called, and I call it, I always use street address. We'll keep asking the same question. The Gravel Hill, is that a parking? You're talking about at the very end, the.
So it says, yeah, it's and like we actually on the cul-de-sac and it says that the trail started at
Right
the
there.
end of the cul-de-sac.
No, it's the gravel, yeah, the gravel cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Or amended pond, amended foundation.
All we have is a tax number vacant land on Gravel Hill Lane is how it's called here in the town profile of the town owned property.
Town owns that piece though? Are those trails open to the public?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my old neighborhood. Does that back up to the Sibley Estates and Meter Estates?
So I think that the name of our neighborhood is, I think it's the Lacy. I'm trying to remember what the name
That's
is.
it.
Yeah.
But and then yeah, and it's depending on where your house is, either your, Plains or ours goes all the way down to the creek.
Across the Sibley Road too.
On both sides, yeah. I have relatives that hold French Road on the other side.
So if you look at the tax map, this looks like an empty lot. And it's town owned property on that end of Gravel Hill Lane.
Right.
And then the Medin Foundation owns up the top of the hill.
The Bear Sprout used to own those lots and sold it to the village.
I don't know how the town of Mendon acquired this area, but it's town owned there, probably for access or recreational.
Understand.
I learned that there was, because I actually met with them, last year, we're meeting about something else, and they came, to understand more, and what they told me is that it might have been a developer that was probably the one in our neighborhood that wanted to develop, but that, it was an old Native American burial ground, and there's now, the architects, in order to build there, you have to spend a tremendous amount of money to dig everything up and to see what's there, and so the Mendon Foundation then, bought that land, and so that's protected. So it's just really interesting, Christian was so interested in learning about it, reading about it, and it was a big seller of that neighborhood just because it was like, okay, this is great, we can always have these trails that, we're on all the time with the kids, and it's beautiful, it's just beautiful sunsets and there, and, people take pictures a lot, so,
Is it foot trails or?
Yep.
bikes or-
Foot trails.
Okay.
Did you live on the cul-de-sac?
yes.
It's a big hill there.
You've never been up to the top of the hill, it's smooth, so.
We used to
It
sled,
is.
we used to sled down there.
Yeah, my kids do that, yeah.
It's still scary, it's a place to.
Right down in the meters back there.
Yeah. Okay. All right, anything else for location? All right, let's take a look here. So if you go up under locations, we're on town property. Any place that can be stumbled upon, town library, cemetery, memorial area, I'm assuming we're talking about over here, in the village cemetery. Okay. Semmel Road is town, so under property owner, we have town of Mendon and potential village.
So actually, we should,
It's
that's how we'll work with, we should almost do one of these for every one of those sites, if we're really gonna do. Right, we should have town property owner, public access, and go through the list, and then have kind of, or you can do it this way, you gotta figure out which goes.
If we get it all down there first, hopefully brainstorm and then get the thoughts together.
Yeah.
You just gotta figure out which one you're talking about, as you write the notes.
Well,
You know what I mean, what I'm saying is, we almost like cut and paste that whole blocks, and do it. Five
For
times.
each site.
Mhm.
when we get to the concept, we should probably do that.
I agree.
So right now, we're looking at top property, village property. And the trails wouldn't be impacted by this one way or another,
That's the town
because
property.
we're talking about something of a monument, as I understand it, at Gravel Hill. So the Mendon Foundation wouldn't be impacted, it would be on that town property.
Yeah,
Okay.
more, yeah, and that would just be almost like an added
Yeah, it's only,
benefit, so, yeah.
we should walk the trails, okay. So public access. To all of them, we have a yes. And I would think that you would want whatever we come up with to have public access, clearly have public access.
Yeah, the lot at the end of Gravel Hill, like just being on a planning board, I mean, being raised on the planning board, there may be some hoops to jump through in terms of having a seeker and all that kind of information.
Especially if it has the Indian memorial stuff.
It's like traffic,
Sure.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just, you know, I'm not necessarily sure it needs to go up there, but just a heads up on that. Maybe zoning board. Planning board stuff.
So they only own the yellow spot,
Yeah,
so who owns the rest?
those are all privately owned.
No, it's a huge piece.
That's the Mendon Foundation.
Okay, so,
Yes, this is the Mendon Foundation, this goes up.
no, I understand that, but so it's two different things.
This would have to be the site for the trails around from here.
That was also like with the cul-de-sac is. I wonder if they own the cul-de-sac, I don't, the town,
Yes,
right, but they own the land, that's what I'm asking, is how big is that chunk, you'll see, it's kind of odd.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little square at the end of the street, and I know it's cul-de-sac, so I guess.
It's only a third, it's only a third of an acre.
It's a little yellow dot.
it says on the pages that precede the map show the size of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the size of a building lot.
Yeah, probably.
But that map doesn't show a cul-de-sac, so getting, that word is cul-de-sac. Tells us the town property. Cul-de-sac. So that's, you see what I mean,
Alright.
you live there, you'll know,
Okay.
It's not a building, it's a separate.
but that map doesn't show cul-de-sac. And I think that's,
Anything else for public access other than?
I think they're adding on the other part too, that's
You
next.
can't go into that.
Existing site uses, some of those already have other uses. So I don't know that that's an issue for what we're looking at. Does anybody see?
that's great, that's what I mean, the town.
Well, the existing, the old library, wouldn't that be public access to the library? For under existing site uses? It's already being used as a sidewalk that leads to the center, leads to the library. So it already has a purpose.
Yeah.
Front yard, is that what you mean?
Well, there are all those sites that we've come up with tonight or previously,
Oh,
some of them already are existing uses of.
so it's a
something.
generic, yes.
So as we look at these, I don't know if you want to be in conflict with an existing site. Might, if you really want an existing site that might have some issues, we have to resolve them. But I don't know that right now, any of the pre-existing uses are in conflict with any of those ones.
I understand.
Does that answer?
Yes.
All right, we've talked about integrating with some of the other uses, specifically 251 dedication to the state assembly, and Cynthia had an idea of extending the flags up further than they are on Route 64. So, you know, we've identified some integration, but certainly we can integrate with other uses if we feel that there is validity to that and the desire to do that. So maybe now just yes. potential for integration with some of these?
Yeah, I think it depends on where you put it, right? You go to the town library, you've got to integrate it into the setting of the town library and pick the right location on the property. The gravel hill park at the end may be easier because it's nothing, it's a field, so you can put it there. But definitely if you did it in the cemetery, you definitely incorporate it somehow into the field. And then if we do the Summer Park you mentioned, again, definitely integrated to this. There's a lot of other things there. This is part of it.
Standalone presence. We talked about that this is a specific frame of reference and specific concept for honoring one. So it could have, it needs a standalone presence, whether or not it's integrated in an area with something else, but by itself, it needs to have its own specific presence.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the military memorial right here, I mean, that standalone, that's got a standalone presence, but it's part of something.
Right.
So it's kind of a, not a yes, not a no.
So again, predicated on what the concept or the concepts are to push forward in the business. Compatibility with neighboring land uses. The things that we've talked about, right now on the face of them, they are compatible. I mean, there's nothing that we've talked about that is really in an iffy situation, and there's something that pre-exists or is already on a particular piece of property. So I think we leave that open. Are there other things there with those empty bullets that you think we need to be concerned about right now with a memorial site, generically, a memorial site? Right, then let's go down. Now, there might be things that you have in mind that we've never hit on here. Let's leave those.
Oh, okay.
We might have to go back and add some other things. All right, anything that we haven't hit on that you think we need to consider? Because it's not expressed up there, it's not been considered. Okay, then let's leave that alone for now, and then from what we've talked about here, I'm getting the feeling that whatever we do, whatever we come up with, you would want it to be in perpetuity. It may have capital expense for 10 years or 15 years, but you want its presence to go forward in time.
Yes.
Correct? And if you could just put an X in front of perpetuity. And when we go back to look at the cost of whatever our concepts are, we may have to define it in terms of years. So if we could just leave that blank for now, there may be some capital costs that have a lifespan, maintenance costs that are on a cycle of, 1 year, 5 year, whatever. So let's leave that alone, but the intention is the perpetuity. You bold it, X, Michelle, just so we know that it's a big deal. Okay. All right, so now that we've kind of captured ideas, is there anything else in terms of brainstorming that we've not covered in any way, shape, or form? Anything to add to what we've done that you thought about to add to these? Okay, Paul Haney's here as a guest tonight, welcome. You had your hand up earlier. Is there something that you would like to add at this point?
Actually, yes,
Okay.
if I may. I used to be a member of this team. I resigned. That's another story in itself. But
Well, we have your inscription and we have your submission prior where you had all of your ideas listed, so if you need to add to that, this is the time to do it, but we already have what you have submitted.
Okay, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but it appears, let me give you a little background about my basic history, which I don't think you have.
We did in the first
You
meeting.
gave us your email too,
Right.
your email, your history.
Okay, but not everybody here receives my emails because, for instance, Teresa does
I
not.
heard it though. It was-
Okay, but I've planned major projects. This is not the same magnitude, much smaller than a lot of the projects that I've actually been involved in. And the idea that you have to work out all the little details in your project before you can actually get started on your project. For example, when I first got involved in this thing, I started saying, well, okay, we're gonna need plaques, we're going to need some sort of a figure, monumental figure and so on. What do these things cost? And I've got some concrete figures.
But we're just brainstorming ideas.
Yeah, I'm just saying. What I'm saying is that these figures could be, you could think about that while you're doing the rest. The idea of, that's all I'm saying, is that my training relative to project management is to do it in parallel. Yeah, somebody here mentioned the plaque. Okay, what do plaques cost? I know. Okay, because I did the research. So there are some figures, so it expands this, the level of understanding, so you do this in parallel, rather than say, all right, we're gonna do this, this, and this, okay, now what's it gonna cost? And sometimes you might wanna make changes along the way. This, and you can anticipate some of these changes and do it in parallel, so.
I understand this is your public comment. I just feel like I need to get in to just kind of steer this thing in the right direction.
Yeah.
Your qualms, your concerns or whatever should be addressed to the town board. The town board is commissioned, is put together to do what we're doing right now. If you have a problem with that, then you can talk to John. We have a town board meeting a week from Monday. There's more comment there. You can come and say, I don't think you're doing this the correct way. But that is the body that has commissioned this group. So any complaints about how this body is moving along or not moving along or whatever should be addressed.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining
Yeah.
about this team.
Yeah.
But this team is being steered by the town board.
And that's who you should talk to.
I've tried.
No, you haven't.
Yes.
I've been at every town board meeting for the last 4 years. I have not seen it.
I've dealt directly with our town
I've seen the
supervisor.
correspondence. This,
Okay,
what's happening right now is not helpful to the,
Okay.
what is the purview of this committee.
Yeah.
That, again, if there's any
okay.
questions or whatever, you can address either John or the town board, or
For example, I addressed to John specifically. It looks like he's forcing the issue. For example, this is not allowed to talk about finances.
It's not within our charge, it's not.
That's
within
not-
our
You're not
purview.
allowed to.
No, we can talk
We
about it,
can
but it's
talk
not our
Talk about
charge.
it, but it's
We're
not.
not paying. So
I
if you,
disagree with that.
if you wanna give us some quick figures, if you have some quick figures you wanna hand out or share with us,
Yeah.
that's great.
But what I'm getting from John is, no, the team members, and I can probably make this.
We're not
Can I
charged.
say
with
something? I think we just like could stay focused as my husband,
Right.
you know, and two other men, and I think that's what we should really stay focused on. I have 4 kids at home, I know everyone else has kids at home, that some people do, they need to get back to their other lives, so it would be great if we could just stay focused on being productive in this meeting while we're here, because it's this valuable time that we're all giving up.
So
Okay.
if you have anything written that you would like to leave with Bonnie, it could be distributed from there. Otherwise, I think we're
Okay,
okay
I'll
because
be
we
quiet.
have all of your things.
Okay.
Okay, so if we have nothing more for this checklist, I'm gonna ask Denise to send this out to you. And if you would, and I think Peter was going along this train of thought, if you have ideas now for specific places for these concepts, and you wanna run down the left side and design your concept based on the things that you put on this paper, maybe we can get next time to here's some focused concept, and here's what needs to be considered with those.
So, are we jumping after, we need to pick a location,
Right.
I think we need to pick a location and then build from there, would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
You wanna pick a location without picking, an idea?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think that's, the location's
Otherwise,
gonna,
we're gonna spin wheels maybe with, well, I think the location depends on the concept. I think,
Yeah,
you know, I think the location is more, yeah, I think,
once we have a location, we'll know, okay, we're in a field,
right,
we're in a town park, we're in the library setting, we're in the cemetery next door, and now let's make it
Where are we gonna design?
appropriate for this location, it'll fit.
Yeah, so in other words, it's like narrowing down concepts, and then that the location will flow from that.
other way.
Vice versa.
Vice
You don't
versa.
think so?
Well, so I think, so if you wanna make so if we wanna make a monument, I'm just gonna do
Yes.
that, you wanna make a big Black Hawk thing, now we're gonna say, you know, that would dictate, that would also say, okay, it's not gonna fit in the library.
Yeah.
Too big.
Yeah.
In a field, it may look funny, maybe you did explore a park.
No, the location flows from the concept.
I'm thinking the other
He's
way.
thinking the other way.
But that's,
around.
that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's.
I think you're basically saying what's more important, the location, not more important, but it's all important, I don't mean like that, I just mean, I know it's gonna be number one, like,
Yeah.
the location is.
Here's where I wanna build my house.
Number one,
This is what it's gonna look
yes.
like.
Just like real estate.
That's all I-
The thing is, so if we go with the town park, right, now we're looking more about the building. And how would we make it work in this environment? You know what I'm saying, the concept versus we build, we wanna make this 20-foot statue, it's gonna look very awkward in that park.
Alright,
I-
okay, I'm sure, I'm
I-
sure.
that makes
Okay, yeah.
So- Whatever you wanna put as your starting point, whether it's the location or the idea. Get some of these things together for us, so that when we come together the next time, you can tell us what your thoughts are about what we should do.
I feel like the family should pick the location more than me.
I agree.
Anybody else, I believe the family should be the one to pick the location out of what we have.
Keep in mind, we don't get to come up with this one idea.
I understand that, but I'm saying for that, with, you know, it's more for them, you know.
And based on what your thoughts are for what we do, but then we might say, oh, that would be perfect here, or that would be perfect there, or this should go here and that should go there. So certainly we're not, eliminating it.
But we have a multiple locations already there. I'm just saying maybe let them kind of discuss what they feel like their best spot would be for it.
Do you have enough information that you can go back with this and talk with families and say, here's what the committee is deliberating and discussing right now? Or do you want to wait till after the next meeting? Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, when I originally spoke with Catherine about was, the gravel hill, I understand there's probably a lot of, probably not as simple as saying, as having it there, so I already kind of realized that it's just a very special place for my family and for Christian, so that would mean a lot. The second, the idea that you brought up, I loved that, it just, something that's, Christian was the life of the party, he lit up every room, he's very, so, having it kind of like in a cemetery or like, it's not really, him, and I know it's not just about him, it's about Steve and Dan as well, he's my husband, so obviously. And he lives here, so, having something lively, he lived for his family, for his kids, so something either, like in our neighborhood that meant so much to him, or this, Splash Park could be very excited about something around, having fun and kids and lively versus like sad and cemetery and kind of,
And that, so, It's up to us to rule things out. So if the village secretary is not an idea,
Yeah,
that's good to know.
yeah,
But that's okay, because then the library doesn't have to love to read or not, right? It could be a great place, it could not, but if ruling out a place would help us a lot too.
yeah,
So you may not pick it, but you may say, look, I really do not want to have something that's not.
yeah.
And that's,
Yep, and that's really helpful, I think for this whole committee.
Just a thought, if there's an inscription and a plaque that you think is appropriate and could go in any number of places, that could also be done, and I talked about like a storyboard. If there's an idea for a plaque or an inscription that could go inside a building or outside a building,
Yep.
that would give a further presence
Sure.
to memorializing in addition to something specific, like the spring park, for example. So nothing's off the table. I don't want you to stop, going out. So let's plan next time for you to come back with your package of what you think is appropriate. And if it's driven by a location, so be it. If it's an idea that we need to pick a location, however it's easiest for you to work with some of these.
How detailed do you want this plan? Just script, do you want pictures, do you want engineering drawings, I mean,
No,
how detailed do we want?
Hopefully not.
This one, what do you expect?
An idea, a place, something that we would need to consider to support either the cost of building or the cost of amenities that might be there. Anything that you know that is going to be necessary to make this a viable place and convey the message.
Doesn't have to be real complex, it's just an idea.
And as you go through that, you might come up with something else that you haven't even thought about right here. So, we're still in this like forming stage. Nothing's off the table, but hopefully we're gonna get to a point where we can find some things that gel. Because we don't have to wait until this, the September meeting of the town board. If what we come together with is here, sent forward to the town board, they can go to them at any point when you are settled. with what you're doing.
It was just, you need to be on it by this date.
Right, they gave us
Time.
like 6 months and that's.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, 2 or 3 meetings.
I think so too.
So we have 2 meetings in May, we have 1 in June, 1 in July, and 1 in August, if we need all of them. If not, so be it.
Right.
But, okay, is there any further discussion of kind of like your homework for the next time? Is there anything else that you think we need to look at tonight?
No, I think once, I personally, I'm really Peter on the idea. We need to know the location. And then I think
So start with your location and go from there then. Go at it, whatever makes sense to you.
Right.
Go at
Right.
it that way. There's no rhyme or reason to.
I have a question too, and actually both of you know this. The other 2 gentlemen, were they family, do they have kids?
No,
No, okay.
no, they're not married in that.
Okay, thank you.
But, both Steve and by their nieces and nephews is the best on. They were they didn't have their own descendants, Dan wanted to eventually, but neither of them had the opportunity yet. But they were both very involved with their nieces and nephews.
Those are the best ones.
Okay, anybody on Zoom with us tonight, Michelle?
Nope,
And Michelle's going to send us that latest update that.
Yes, please.
that is actually what I was just doing right now. Do you want me to send it to everybody or just Denise? Okay.
Anything else on the first? Okay, great. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you on May 11th. I'll get that, town property.
Right here.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Kind of, yeah. Okay.
Oh, will you take John's computer back to him? Thank you. I didn't end up using it because by the time he called me back, I had already had it. I guess you can use one. We weren't sure if you could run that and Zoom at the same time.